Section 2, Hierarchical Arrangement of English Language Units. Now, English is an inherently hierarchical language, right? Hierarchical meaning it has levels, okay? If you have a certain education and inhabit certain social or professional circles, you speak a different language than the rest of the Anglophone world. So a unit is a basic part, many of which bring out the whole meaning, all right? So now in English language, we have different hierarchical units of this language. We have the morpheme, we have word, we have phrase, we have clause, we have sentence. So we're going to pick them one after the other so that you have a better understanding of what they are all about. Okay. Morphemes is the smallest meaningful unit of grammar of a language. It is the minimal unit, and morpheme is like the minute, the smallest unit that you find when you're building words in a language. Okay? A morpheme should not be confused with a syllable. You have to be very careful. It's a dicey thing. You don't confuse a morpheme with a syllable. Okay? The smallest pronounceable unit of a language is what we call a morpheme. The smallest pronounceable unit of a language. For instance, we have break, and able in the word unbreakable, right? We have unbreakable. If you break it, you see smallest units that make up one word. We have we have break, we have able, which can stand sometimes on their own. For instance, break can stand on its own, okay? Able can stand on its own, right? So these single words come together to make up one word in English language. Okay, there are two classes of morphemes. There are free morphemes and bound morphemes. What are bound morphemes? Bound morphemes need free morphemes to stand. Now, bound morphemes are also called additive morphemes because they need to be added to free morphemes. Bound morphemes are like what you have in biology as parasites. They cannot stay on their own. They have to feed on free morphemes for them to make their own meaning. Now, examples of bound morphemes are nest, here, would, ye, word, action, is, and the rest of them. They cannot stand and make a meaning on their own. They have to depend on the free morphemes for them to have a meaning. Now, a derivational morpheme is an affix or a group of letters added before the beginning, which is prefix, or after the end, which is suffix, of a root or base word to create a new word or a new form of an existing word. For instance, if you add these are prefixes, okay? We have the, pre, in, on, as a decrease. You see, a prefix is the. You add the other word and it makes a sentence, a word rather. Decrease, preschool, independent, uncomfortable. Okay? Now moving over to suffixes, we have full, nest, meant, and the rest of them. So they are needed to be combined for you to have a particular, complete, meaningful word. For instance, for you to say teacher, you have to add ER, a suffix to it. Teacher, faithful, harmless, newness, inducement, famous. You see, the suffixes appear at the end of this word for it to make a complete meaning. Okay? Now we have inflectional morphemes are suffixes that get added to a word, thus adding a grammatical value to it. You can assign a tense, a number, a comparison, or a possession. Here are some examples of inflectional morphemes. Plurals, we have bikes, cars, trucks, lions, monkeys, buses, matches, classes. That's for plural, just the S. Okay? The next one, possessive, we have boys, first, the apostrophe and the S. Girls, the apostrophe and the S. Mans, Max, Roberts, Samantha's, teachers, offices. Okay? Now going to tense, we have hooked. Tense has to do with, of course, present, past tense, or present continuous. Hooked, played, marked, waited, watched, roasted, grilled, sang, drank, drove, and the rest of them. We have comparison. We have comparison has to do with the superlative, fastest, slowest, quickest, tallest, highest, shortest. We have the smallest, biggest, weakest, strongest, sharpest. So these are general reflectional morphemes, which when you add it to a word, it can entirely change the meaning of that word. Okay? Now, moving on to, remember we're doing hierarchical units of English, so we've talked about the other one. The next one is one word. In speech, a word can be defined as sound or combination of vocal sounds to express meaning. Now, in writing, it can be defined as a single group of letters that are used together with a particular meaning. Of course, everything that we say in English language is word. Okay? So we have types of word based on the meaning. We have content word. Content word, this is otherwise known as lexical word or full word. This type of word relates to actions, things, people, and states in the world. For instance, for content words, we have nouns, John, room, answer. For adjectives, we have happy, new, large, great. For verbs, we have search, grow, hold, have. For adverbs, we have really, completely, very, also, enough. So these are content words. They give you meaning to the word. We have grammatical word. This type is also referred to as form word, function word, or structure word. This type of word performs mainly a syntactic function, okay? Hence the name grammatical. Some examples include to, for, by, in, the, a, at, and the rest of them. Now, types of words based on structure. We have simple word. A simple word is a free morpheme. It is possible to add an affix to it, which will change the word from being simple. We have the compound word, which is one that has two bases. In other words, it has two free morphemes. Okay? Two free morphemes coming together to make up one word. For instance, heartland, wetland, teaspoonful, stillborn, taskmaster, that's task and master coming together to make one word. Tea and cup, teacup coming together to make one word. Cutting room, father-in-law, soundtrack, counting house. These are morphemes, but when they come together, they make up one word. That is for compound word. Okay? The next one is phrase. What is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words which has no finite verb. Okay? In it and acts to complete the sentence for making it meaningful. A phrase is a small group of words that form a meaningful unit within a clause. We have types of phrase. There are noun phrase, adjective phrase, adverbial phrase, prepositional phrase, conjunctional phrase, interjectional phrase. The first one, we'll take the one after the other, the noun phrase. A noun phrase is usually assembled around a single noun and works as a subject, an object, or a complement in a sentence. Let's see some examples. I like to dance outside when it is raining. I like to dance outside when it is raining. The object here is what? To dance outside, right? Reading novels is a good habit. Reading novels is the subject of the sentence. Is what? A good habit. The probability of winning that match is not much. The probability of winning that match. That's the subject of the sentence. Okay? The next one, we are sorry for her departure. We are sorry for what? Her departure. So her departure becomes the object of the sentence. We have adjective phrase. An adjective phrase is comprised of an adjective and works as a single adjective in the sentence. Right? We have, for instance, Alex is a well-behaved man. Alex is a well-behaved man. Well-behaved in the sentence is the word adjective. Right? We have, he is a man of friendly nature. He is a man of what sort? Friendly nature. So friendly nature is describing what sort of man he is. Julie is a woman of gorgeous style. Julie is a woman. What sort of woman? Of gorgeous style. She leads a very interesting life. You can as well say she leads a life, but what kind of life? A very interesting life. So that's for adjective phrase. The next one is adverbial phrase. An adverbial phrase modifies the verb or the adjective and works as an adverb in a sentence. Let's look at for some examples. The horse runs at a good speed. The horse runs at what speed? A good speed, right? I was in a hurry then. I was in a hurry then. I ran as fast as possible. As fast as possible, describing how you were able to run. He walks very slowly. He walks. How does he walk? You can as well say he walks slowly, but when you add the very, you are actually telling us how slowly he walks. Alright? We have prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase always begins with a preposition and connects a noun. Let's look at some examples. We have he sacrificed his life for is a preposition. The sake of his country, a noun. Remember we said it first begins with a preposition and then it connects to a noun. So he sacrificed his life for preposition, the sake of his country, a noun. Okay? In the end, we all have to die. In the end, right? We all have to die. He is on his way. He is on preposition, his way or on the way, a noun. By walking aimlessly, you will not get success. By a preposition, walking aimlessly, you will not get success. Alright? We have conjunctional phrase. A conjunctional phrase works as a conjunction in a sentence. Conjunction in a sentence, okay? Just like saying, this is like an interruption in a sentence. We have, as soon as you got in, he went out. As soon, here, is a conjunctional phrase. The next one, we have to work hard so that we can win the next match. You can as well say, we have to work hard, right? That's a complete sentence. But why do you have to? So that we can win the next match. That's a conjunction there, so that. I will attend the ceremony provided that you come. Provided that you come. You can as well say, I will attend the ceremony. But on what condition? Alright? A conjunction comes in provided that you come. Alright? The next one, interjectional phrase. Interjections that have more than one word are called the interjectional phrase. Interjections that have more than one word, okay, are called the interjectional phrase. For instance, we have, what a pity, he died. What a pity. That is the interjection. Alright? He could have actually said, he died. But what a pity, that is more than one word, an interjection having more than one phrase. He died. What a pleasure, I won the first prize. You could have as well said, I won the first prize. But the interjection comes into the sentence. What a pleasure, I won the first prize. Oh, please, don't say that again. Oh, please. Oh, and please. These are two words coming together to form an interjectional phrase. Alright? Moving forward, we have clause. What is a clause? A clause is comprised of a group of words which includes a subject and a finite verb. Okay? A clause maintains only one subject and one verb. So the subject of the clause can be mentioned or hidden, but the verb must be apparent and distinguishable. Alright, we have example. I graduated last year. That is one sentence clause. I graduated last year. Right? It makes meaning on its own. Okay? When I came here, comma, I saw him. These are two clauses. When I came here, when you say that, someone is listening for the next thing you want to say. I saw him. So these are two clauses that are coming together to make a complete sentence. When I came here, that's one. I saw him, that's second. And he greeted me. These are three clause sentences. Okay. Now, types of clauses. We have independent clause and we have dependent clause. Let's look at the meanings. What is an independent clause? An independent clause functions on its own to make a meaningful sentence and looks much like a regular sentence. Okay? It is independent. It doesn't need anybody to make a meaning. It makes a meaning on its own. For instance, he's a wise man. That's an independent clause. It makes a meaning on its own. He is a wise man. I like him. It's a complete sentence. Can you do it? Do it, please. Right? So, in this do it, please, you can see that the subject, you, is hidden. Do it, please. You, of course, you know I'm referring to you, but you don't see the you there. It is hidden, but it still makes a complete sentence. Okay? The next one, I want to buy a phone, but I don't have enough money. These are two independent clauses. Now listen, two independent clauses. The first one, I want to buy a phone. You can actually put a full stop to that and it makes a full sentence. I want to buy a phone. The next one, I don't have enough money. It's also a complete sentence on its own. I don't have enough money. So these are two independent clauses that can stand on its own. But when you put an interjection, but, it connects the two of them to make one full sentence. Alright? Moving. Okay, the next one, dependent clause. A dependent clause cannot function on its own because it leaves an idea or thought unfinished. Just like the name indicates, dependent clause. When it is said, it needs another clause to depend on for it to make a full meaning. For instance, when I was dating Diana, yeah? You are telling me your story. You said, when I was dating Diana, listening to hear what you have to say more. I had an accident. That makes it a complete sentence. The next one, I know the man. Okay? You know the man. Which man? Who stole the watch? You see that? He bought a car, which was too expensive. I know that he cannot do it. I know. What do you know that he cannot do? So if you look at these examples, you see they are dependent clauses that have to depend on another clause for them to make a complete meaning. Right? The next one is sentence. What is a sentence? A sentence is the largest unit of any language. In English, it begins with a capital letter and it ends with a full stop, or a question mark, or an exclamation mark. Right? A sentence is generally defined as a word or group of words that expresses a thorough idea by giving a statement, an order, or asking a question or exclaiming. For instance, he is a good boy. That's a statement. Is he a good boy? That's a statement but a question. Right? What a nice weather. That's exclaiming. What a nice weather. Right? He was a noble man. What a painful death. Alright? He was a noble man. It's a sentence. Okay? What a painful death is another sentence. Now we have types of sentences. We have simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence. Alright, let's look up some examples. What is a simple sentence? A simple sentence must have a single clause or a single verb. Okay, which is independent and it cannot take another clause. That's just a simple sentence, as the name implies. It is simple. It just has one verb and it makes meaning on its own. Example, I always wanted to become a writer. One clause, one verb. You see that? I always wanted to become a writer. This is one clause. What is the verb there? Become. So it has one verb and it is one clause and it makes a full meaning on its own. The next one is compound sentence. A compound sentence must have more than one independent clause with no dependent clause. Let's look at that. Remember, it says it has one independent clause with no dependent clause. For instance, I always wanted to become a writer. I always wanted to become a writer. And she wanted to become a doctor. Now, these are two independent clauses, but I have two verbs, right? I always wanted to become a writer. I mean, that's a complete sentence. You can actually put a full stop to it and have a complete sentence. She wanted to become a doctor. That is also a complete sentence on its own. Right? So these are two clauses that make sense, meaning on their own coming together. But of course, you have an interjection and there to connect the both of them. The next one, complex sentence. A complex sentence also has more than one clause, but one of them must be an independent clause and the other or others must be dependent clauses. Right? Remember, this one is complex, so you have to be careful. We have, I know, that is one clause, that you always wanted to be a writer. Now look at this sentence here, a dependent clause, which is I know, is followed by a connector, that, right? And an independent clause, you always wanted to be a writer. So in the other way around, is also possible. Alright, to say, I know you always wanted to be a writer, but the that there is a connector, connecting I know, which is a dependent clause, to you always wanted to be a writer, which is an independent clause. Okay? Now, this one is compound complex sentence. Alright? A compound complex sentence is a mixture of the features of compound and complex sentence in one sentence. Okay? We have, I know that you always wanted to become a writer, but I always wanted to become a doctor. You see that? This is I know, one